Episode 1. And this one's going to be just about like the early stages of your life. So I'm just going to ask you questions about that, okay? Kind of like what we just talked about. So what is your favorite childhood memory?
This isn't a favorite one, but one day, in fact, I've got a picture of it in here somewhere that I found, that I ran around all day long in just my underpanties and a little undershirt until my parents came home, and my mother was kind of excited about that. But I had just run all day in just a pair of underpanties and a little undershirt. I grew up during the war, and it was really hard to get candy. That you had to be down to the store when the candy supply came in, and loved Hershey candy bars. And you just had to be there, and we'd all, if somebody went down there, they'd come up and say, they've got candy down at Timmerman's or Boyd Burnett's, they've got candy. And so then we'd all just run after a candy bar. Well, we used to always go to Yellowstone Park, so that was probably the only place we ever went, but it was fun. I had a cousin who was just a few months younger than I was, and she used to come with her family up there. So we had a good time. Cooked breakfast in the morning, and it was always so good.
What was the breakfast?
We'd have bacon and eggs and hash brown, and I think we even had scones, but I don't think that, because I don't know how they would have cooked them. But just mainly, well, that's what we ate every day, was bacon and eggs. She was very intelligent, very smart. I didn't have an awful lot to do with her. My grandmother actually took more care of me than my mother did. My mother worked full-time, and which was, you know, none of my friends' mothers worked. It wasn't very popular, but she always worked. She worked hard. And then they had a mini farm where we were always picking berries or hoeing the corn or doing something. There was always something going on. He was the best looking dad in the world. Do you remember that? He was very, very good looking, I guess. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't think so, but he really was very, very good looking. And he was just a nice person, just a kind, nice person, right? So, that he always saw the good in everybody. Well, he'd swear an awful lot at his animals, and he really did. We'd all, Dad, you shouldn't be talking like that. But he did. He'd swear at his cows, he'd swear at his everything, every animal. His cats, whatever.
Tell about how you wanted your hair to look like his.
Yeah, well, I asked my sister to fix my hair like Daddy's. She was kind of like, she wouldn't let me see the mirror. She fixed it, and she wouldn't let me see a mirror, and she kept saying it looks just like Daddy's does. And I think, I don't think so. Because I've got these little ringlets that go down, and he doesn't have that. So, but he was a good dad. He really was. He's a kind person, just a kind person. Joan Luthi. We met when we were 2 years old, and were best friends until she got married and moved away and died. When she was really quite young, when she passed away, probably just in her early 20s. And what we did was a lot of fighting with each other and arguing. And my parents would always say, how come you play together all the time? You're always yelling at each other, criticizing each other. And then the next thing you're happy, and then pretty quick you're mad at each other. But she was my best friend, and then we had some other kids on the block. We had some Catholic friends that grew up to be really pretty good friends of ours. And it was a good neighborhood to grow up in, it really was. Good people. Oh, they're always yelling at me. No, I had my sister Betty was Mrs. Clean, and she would get mad all the time if you put anything down, didn't hang it up, didn't pick it up. She was always nagging us, but she did keep the house clean. My sister Valerie was beautiful. She really was, wasn't she? when she was young. She could have been a movie star probably. That she was very attractive. My sister Marceline was a lot of fun. She was probably my favorite sister. Very nice to me, and just took real good care of me. And then there was my brother. That was always picking on me. And we're good. We used to be good friends. I never hear from him now unless I call him. He lives in California. But he turned out okay in spite of it all. And that was it. That was the family. I had one sister that I didn't ever know. She died when she was about 4 months old, so never did know her. That's it. That's the family. My grandma lived with us. She was the best cook ever. And she ironed, she cooked, she was working all the time. And she always wanted everybody else working. She never settled. If you sat down, then she had some chore for you to do. So, and my grandma was the best cook ever. She, oh man, she could make good desserts. Amelia Coleman. Sad thing, she was widowed when she was, well, my mother never knew her father. So, and she was the third child down, so. The oldest child died, and then there was the next one, and there was my grandma. She lived a hard life. We made her work hard. He was out in the fields one day, and it started thundering and lightning, and she said, "Oh, I hope Will's okay." And just about that time, she heard a loud crash, and he was hit by lightning and was killed.
Oh, wow.
So my mother never knew her father. He had died. I mean, she was just a baby or maybe a year or so old, so she really never knew him. But it was a traumatic thing to lose your husband back in those days because you needed a husband to help. So, but she never remarried. She had several men who would ask her to marry them, but she said, "I have a husband already." And she just stuck with him. That my mother was never at home. She worked full time, so, you know, and back then she was one of the few working mothers of our neighborhood, probably the only one that worked. And she sometimes wasn't real pleasant. And I wouldn't say that she wanted things done right. She's very intelligent. She had I don't know, she had a bachelor's degree, at least a bachelor's degree, which most women didn't in those days.
She was an English teacher.
What?
Wasn't she an English teacher?
Yeah, she worked as an English teacher, and that's where she met my dad, and where they got married, up in Idaho, in Teton, Idaho, I think. And they got married. He's 3 years younger than she is. And she was very, very intelligent. She loved to read. And I remember they read the newspaper, both of them, from cover to cover every night. And I do too now. Since then, they were good parents. She gave readings. She was in different associations and things, so she wasn't home an awful lot. But my grandma really raised me. But my mother did live at home. And she was good. I appreciate her more now
She was
than
a
I
good
did
cook.
then.
Good cook. Nana was a really good cook.
Oh,
too.
yeah, they were both really good cooks. Just super good cooks. And I didn't inherit it. Diane did more than I did. So they were good parents, though. Oh, for a while, a movie star. That was my goal. But I was really a skinny kid. Want movie star material for one thing. But we used to act like we were. We'd put on plays and movies, but we'd always end up arguing with each other, my friends and I. That was my line. I was supposed to get to say that until we had to shut down. But I had good friends there on Orchard Avenue. Well, we would get up on Christmas morning and go into the kitchen. The whole family would end up in the kitchen, and they'd make us have maybe just a piece of toast. It seemed like we had to have a full breakfast, but maybe not. But they ate breakfast. My parents ate their breakfast, and we had to wait for them. And then we'd go in, and they'd always have the Christmas things out on the couch or the chairs, just decorated, real fun. So you saw your doll, you saw your roller skates, whatever was there. Then it was just, and I had my sisters and brother. They were a lot of fun on Christmas. And however, my brother jumped on my back once, and I hit something and chipped a tooth that's still chipped. But anyway, it was fun. Christmas was always fun at our house.
Okay, last one. So this one's kind of improv, just a question I have for you, but you mentioned growing up around the time of the war.
Yeah.
Do you mind telling me more about that?
No, I remember when Pearl Harbor was bombed. My grandmother lived with us, and she lived for a while at Pearl Harbor and knew many, many people, because she was a seamstress, but not a professional one, but she sewed for people. And I remember that morning when they bombed Pearl Harbor, and she was so upset because she did have friends that lived there. And so she was worried about them. And then we lived through World War II, where you couldn't get food sometimes. You couldn't get the simple things, sugar, butter, things like this that you couldn't get, but we lived through it. Because, well, we had our own cows and our own butter and our own chickens, and, so we were real fortunate. Other than candy bars were hard to come by. You had a hard time with that, but it was, it wasn't a good time during the war, but it was fun. We played war all the time. We really did. It was a good life.
Part of the Depression, did you live through part of the Depression a little bit?
Well, see, when the war came along, the Depression ended.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I was probably too young to remember the Depression. But we had our own food, our own meat, our own milk. So we really did not suffer during the Depression, where there were people that really went without, but we had more than enough usually. And a lot of times, they'd give away. If we had extra, then it would be given to the neighbors, because we had our own chicken, our own cows, our own pigs, our own, everything. So we always had plenty of food. It was a good life.